Good evening, everyone. My name is Yelena. Tonight, I'm going to introduce you to R and R Studio. So here is the agenda. We're going to talk about what R and R Studio. We're going to talk about the R Studio interface. We're going to talk about how to save commands in R script. We're going to talk about using variables. We're going to talk about reading data from CSV file into R data frame. We're going to talk about R data frame properties, and etc. Right? And some visualizations. Okay, so what data we're going to use today for the demonstration? That's human resource data. The data tracks job satisfaction level, a number of years since last performance review. It's going to track the number of projects the person worked on, average number of work hours per month, the time spent in the company, etc. Right? Oh, it's breaking up. I'm going to try to talk slowly. All right, so you're gonna the data is on it's HR data, right? Including the salary, department, and whether an employee left a state with the company. All right, so here's HR data that we're gonna use today for analysis. Okay, now what is R and what are R advantages? R is a language for statistical analysis, data visualization. You don't need to pay for it. It's free and it's open source. It's available for different operating systems, right? Windows or Mac, it's downloaded. And you may save the commands in a file to reproduce the results. You may share the code with others, right? So you may share results with others. There's excellent documentation. R is continuously growing. It works well in academic environment where you are right now. It supports parallel processing. There is more than one way to produce the same result. However, does R solve every problem? No, right? There are some drawbacks. First of all, there is no graphical user interface, none. It requires some effort and you need to practice to learn. You need to learn how to read help page. It's going to save you a lot of time. R is case sensitive, right? So for example, capital X, right, uppercase X is not the same as lowercase x, right? You have to keep updating your packages regularly. You need to, in order to install R, you must have local admin privileges on your PC. You either must be an admin or you need to have the admin password when prompted, right? And the performance, of course, is slower than Python or Java, right? And you cannot embed R into web application. It's just for your information, okay? Now, what you need to install? You need to install the latest and greatest R version, all right? The latest one. And also latest desktop R Studio version. Very important. R Studio is not going to work without R. R will work without R Studio, but R Studio will not work without R. It runs on top of R. So first you're going to install R, then you're going to install R Studio, okay? So what is R Studio? This is an integrated developer environment, right? Remember I told you there is no interface, but R Studio provides you some interface, right? And you have you can highlight the syntax for you. You can basically view commands history, etc. There is some interface. However, I would say do what you can as much as possible. Do programmatically. Avoid doing things via menus. Do programmatically because you want the work to be reproducible. You want the commands to be in the code, right? Okay, so we're gonna talk about what's R Studio. When you first install it, you're gonna see this. Here, this is called the console window. This is a window where your commands will be echoed, right? You can run commands just by typing them into console window. Like for example, I want to know what version I'm using, right? I type version, and it's gonna give me the current R version. It's just an example. So here in this window, I'm gonna see output. I'm gonna see error messages. I'm gonna see warnings. Okay, so it's in here in this window. That's called the console window. Another window, it's called environment. Here, I'm gonna see everything that is loaded in memory. At a moment, there is nothing, because I have not done anything, right? It's empty. History. History is gonna store what? The commands that I ran. For example, right now, I just checked the R version. This is a command. I can run it again. I highlight it, I click it to console, and enter, right? Or I can also copy it to the code if I was working on a code, right? I could also highlight it and click it to source. And that would copy it to what? To the source window. I'll show you what the source window shortly. Now, you have environment, you have history. What else do you have in here? You have files. Files is going to show you the files in your current working directory. What is current working directory? We'll talk about it. It's a folder where R will attempt to find the files by default, right? So you've got the files, you've got the plots. Here will be your visualization. Nothing at the moment. Packages. Our codes, our libraries are organized into packages. Package is a set of functions, data sets, and some vignettes maybe, right? It's a documentation, it's a set grouped together. There are two types of packages, system library and user library. System library is pre-installed. When you install R, this is what you get, the system library. These two guys were installed by me, right? I'll show you. But you know that you need to know system library and user library, right? Okay, so help. This is excellent. You can read help pages, right? And I'll show you how to use it. All right, so that's a tab you need to worry about. Now, I say that the code needs to be reproducible. What you're gonna do for your assignment, you're gonna go here, file, new file, R script, right? This is the source window, and you're gonna type your code here, then you're gonna save it. The file extension is gonna be .r, right? That's a file type, .r, okay? And you're gonna save it. Now, but for you, what I did was I prepared the code for today's session. So if you know where you've saved the file, you just go file, open file, and browse, right? But I'm gonna show you a little shortcut here. Suppose that you worked on your file yesterday and you want to reopen it today. See this, you have this, and you have this recent files. Recent file is gonna show what you had recently opened. So I had this file recently opened, and I can just reopen it, okay? So this is a file with what commands, right? But before we get there, we talked about the console window, we talked about different windows, right? Source window is where your file is the code. Remember, you want the work to be reproducible, right? In addition, when you change something, right, you cannot, there is no undo button. So the only way to undo something is to what? Rerun the code, right? So the work must be reproducible. Okay? Now, so we talked about R script, right? This is where you open the window. And when you run the command in the script, the output will be displayed where? In the console window, okay? Now, so I'll show you how to run the script. So you've got this file here. If I want to run the command, I'm just gonna put my cursor on the command and I'm gonna run. But wait a minute, I have a lot of stuff in a hash mark. What is this? This is a comment. Comment tells us what the code does. It's a way to document your code. So that way, later, tomorrow, if you have to go back to your code, you're gonna know what you've done, okay? So this is a comment, right? So now I want to run. I just put my cursor, or I can highlight the command and I click run button, right? So that's gonna show the version. There are multiple ways to return the same information. I can do R version, I can do version, right? I'm going to be giving you multiple ways because as you do in reading, it would be one way in one book, the other way in the other, okay? Now, what is this session info? It's going to give you information about the current session. Remember packages, right? Packages are what? Pre-installed libraries. Here, it shows me which libraries I currently have in memory. The library is not available unless it's loaded in memory. Here is what loaded by default, right? Well, and etc. Here are different environment settings, okay? Now, this will show you current time. ls command, oh, notice that, take a look at this. What is this? In R, everything is a vector, okay? Like in here, this a little output here, it consists of what? 7 elements. This here, it displays the element number. See this? This is element number 7. That's what it does. In R, even the output, it's a vector. We'll see more examples. But ls command is going to return what's currently in the environment. I'm going to run it. It's going to return nothing. Why? Because I have not created anything. I did not create any objects, right? Alternatively, you can run objects command. Same thing, right? Nothing right now. All right? Data command is going to show you the data sets that are pre-installed. For your first exercise, you are using iris data. What is iris data? That's a data set that comes pre-installed and it's located in these data set packages. In these data set packages, you find the iris data for your first exercise, all right? Here are other packages, other data sets, sorry, that are loaded in memory. Some of them come in data sets package, right? All right, so that's how you see it. You may use R as a calculator. For example, 5 plus 9, and it's going to output, okay? See this, but what is this? Why do I see this? Because everything in R is a vector, okay? So here is a vector with one element, and this element is at position 1, right? I'm looking at my environment. I still don't see anything because I did not assign the result to anything, right? Now, here, I can also output the text, right? But again, I'm not assigning anything. How do I assign it? Suppose that I have an X and I want to assign 3 to an X. This is the assignment operator. I'm going to assign. So what it will do, it will add X to the environment and the value 3, right? But what if you want to see what X is without looking here in this window? You're just going to do X, right? There is also the shortcut. I'm going to create Y and assign 5 to a Y and also output. How do I do this? Well, see this, you can embed the operations. First one here in parentheses is an assignment. And then I just output, see? You just put this in parentheses. What it will do, it will create Y, it's gonna assign 5, and it's gonna output, right? So I have been working for a long time, suppose that, and I have a bunch of stuff in here, bunch of objects. At some point, I may start running out of memory. Suppose that I no longer need X. What do? I run rm command, X in parentheses, and that will remove X from memory, okay? Now, suppose that I have a lot of stuff and I don't want to remove it one at a time. This is what you can do. Remember, ls command lists what you have in memory. So this is going to look through the list and will remove everything from the memory, right? This is equivalent to using this broom, right? But remember, you want the work reproducible, right? You want to know how to do stuff programmatically, right? You always can learn the buttons, but programmatic is important. Now, what this is going to show options. Like, for example, suppose that output is too long, right? how many characters to show. Suppose that warning is too long, how many characters to show, well, etc. Right? Those are the options. This one, it will clear the console window, right? This will clear a console window. This, well, it will just clear the graphic stuff. At the moment, we didn't do visualizations, right? History is going to show 5 comments, last 5 comments from the history. See, here I see it, right? Last 5. Now, remember, everything in R is a vector, but suppose that I want to create a new vector of elements 1 through 5. How do I do it? To do that, I need to use combine command. C stands for combine. It will combine values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into a vector. I can spell out explicitly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. C is a combine. Let's run it. Okay, there we go. But if I go to my environment, I don't see anything. Why? Because I did not assign, right? I did not assign it. What I'm gonna do right now, I'm going to create X and I'm gonna assign this to an X, but now I'm gonna use a shortcut. Instead of listing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I can go 1 and then I'm gonna put column 5. That's one way to get the numbers 1 through 5. So this time I'm gonna create X, right? And I'm gonna output X. But remember, this is case sensitive. If I was going to go here and put lowercase x, right? It does not know it. It gives me an error. X not found. Why? Because here I'm using the uppercase X, right? Now, when I put X, it displays all elements. Suppose that I have 1,000 of elements. What am I gonna do? I have 1,000, but I want to see only third. How do I do it? I'm gonna put what third? Now I'm gonna put in the brackets. I specify that I want to see only the third, right? This, right? Oh, remember this. R in elements in R, the numbering starts from 1. In Python, you started from 0. In R, we start from 1. Okay? Now, class is gonna return the data type. So what's a class of X? I'm expecting it to be integer, right? Because it's a vector of integers. Type of also is going to return the data type, integer. str is going to return the structure, right? So that's a structure, right? So you have values 1 through 5, and here is just the, see, so the first value is 1, the second value is 2, etc. Right? That's what it's doing here. Now, what if I want to create y, vector y, but I want to skip 6 and 7. I want to have 1 through 5, and then I want 8 through 10. How do I do it? Well, I can say column 5, comma, 8, column 10, right? I can do that. I can use shortcut when possible. There we go. And now I'm going to output my y. There we go. Now, if I want to output elements 3 through 6 of y, this is how I do it. I specify the range here, 3 through 6, right? And if I want to see the data type, again, I can run a class command, right? It's going to show me it's an integer. An str command shows what? The structure, right? It shows the structure. Now, what I can also do is I can multiply all elements by 2. So this, right, when I run it, right, then I'm gonna do this to output. It's gonna show me y multiplied by 2. See, I multiplied every single element by 2, right? Another thing that you have is sequences. This one will create a sequence of 10 elements starting from 1. By default, if I don't specify, it's going to start from 1 and it's going to increment by 1. So I'm going to see numbers 1 through 10. See? Well, this may sound simple, but those are the basics that are used in harder stuff. See? Now here, I want to specify the start number, right? So see, this is a 10 element, but this one I want to specify, I want to start from 2. See, there we go. Oops. This here, right? I want to start, and now I'm going to output my W, right? Right there, see? Now, what I want to do is I want to start from 2. I want to add a 10 and the 10, and I want to go by 2. So I expect 2, 4, right? So let's see, let's output. Yes, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I'm incrementing by 2. I'm starting at 2 and stopping at 10, right? Now, earlier I mentioned that R as excellent help system. How do we use it? Well, if you want to, you can go to the help window and search for command in here. Alternatively, you may run the help command programmatically. What you do is you put a question mark and you type the command name. Question mark command name. And this will open the help page here for the command. You may also type help and the command name in parentheses. That will do it as well. All right. So what you see here is this. This is a description for bar plots, right? That's what I just did. And it's going to tell me what does this function do. It's going to tell me possible input parameters that this function can take. It's going to tell me, well, here, this is a description of some arguments, right, that it's taken. And I have some code examples that I could actually run. The examples are done on pre-installed data. So if I wanted to, I could just play around with this and run examples, right? It's giving me some examples for each command, for command that I'm searching for. Now, suppose that I don't know how to spell my command. I know that it starts with bar. There is a command called apropos. It will list the functions that contain the word bar. See this? So then I'm gonna see my exact spelling, and then I can pick it up and run help command, right? So if I don't know the exact spelling, I can search for commands that contain the specified word, okay? Now, for your first exercise, you are working with pre-installed data. But what if you are asked to work with not pre-installed data? You need to read the data from your hard drive into R. How do we do it? Well, I have a folder on my PC that I call data sets, right? Important, I named it, first letter is uppercase, right? So here is the data sets, and this is a folder on my drive. Now, you're gonna get this code and you're gonna get the file. In order to, if you want to play around with the code, you will need to create a folder on your C drive called datasets and upload the data, okay? Or if you call the folder differently, you would have to change the name in the code, okay? So now, what is working directory? By default, when I attempt to read my file, working directory is a location where R is going to check by default. To set the working directory, I run setwd command, right? It's going to set the working directory. And to find out what my working directory is set at the moment to, I'm going to run what? Getwd, right? And also, if you notice this here in the title bar, it shows the current working directory, all right? Then, suppose that I don't quite remember the name of my file, I have an option to list the files that I have. See, this is going to list the data files that I have in the directory. I can also check if the file exists, right? Now, I'm going to actually read the file. I'm going to read it into our object called HR, HR data frame, right? I call it HR. And I'm going to use read CSV command for this. The first line in my data file contains the headers. I want R to treat the first line as headers. Therefore, I have to say header equals true. The file is comma delimited, that's a default. But I want to make sure that it's read correctly. I don't want to rely on default. You never know. What if in the next R version they change it, right? I want to explicitly specify. And I want to read it as is, okay? Now, well, this has to do with the data types. Now, this is the command. You're going to read the file. You're going to read the data from CSV file, right? I call the file name is hr_data CSV. It's in here. So now I'm going to run this. There we go. Now, how do you know that the data was read as expected? Well, non-programmatic approach. You go to environment. See this? This is HR data frame. This is a number of observations. This is a number of columns. You see this here are the column names. And what you see in here is you see the column data type, right? And see the department, right? Then you see the salary. In this case, in this data set, salary is not a specific number. It's just high, low, medium. That's how this data is, right? So what is this called? This one is a factor, right? There are data types integer. This is a factor. Factors have the predefined number of values, right? And predefined values. For example, the salary as a high, low, medium, right? This is predefined. Gender could be male, female, perhaps, or unknown, right? And integer is a number, right? Now, suppose that I don't have this, right? Let's see how you can do. Let's see what you can do to see the structure, and let's see what you can do to preview the data. This view command allows to preview data in a tabular format. I'm gonna run it, view HR, and it's gonna open, oops, I read something different. It's in here, view HR, run, and it's gonna open the data in a tabular format, right? Just nice. You can do that. Now, what else can you do? This is head command. By default, head command is going to return for 6 rows, right? I'm going to run it, I get for 6 rows. Now, because the row does not fit on the screen, it's going to wrap around. I can adjust it, I can fix it, right? Now, suppose that I want to see more than 6 rows, I want to see 10 rows. I just specify the number of rows to show, and it's going to show me 10 rows, okay? It's going to show me 10 rows now. Tail, of course, it's going to show the last 6 rows or the last specified number of rows, right? Now, so this is how to preview data. Here, str is going to show us the data frame structure. You run the str command. It's similar to what you see in the environment window, except you're doing it programmatically. See, this is a data frame. You get the number of rows, number of columns, column data types, okay? That's what you get in here. Class is going to show data frame, right? It's a data frame. And this is just, is it a data frame? It's going to show that it's true, right? Then how do we display the column names? Well, I know that you see column names here, but sometimes you have a code that wants to loop through the column names. You want to do something programmatically in a code, and you want it to go through the column names. You don't want to hard code the column names, right? Another command could take these column names as an input. How do you do that? You're going to run names command. Names command returns the column names. Also, call names command returns the column names, right? So then, how do you show the dimensions of this, right? Of the data frame? You run dim command. Now, oops, you run this dim command to show the dimensions. Remember, what is this? This is a vector, right? This output is a vector of 2 elements. So if I wanted to see only the number of rows, I could just specify this dim hr, right, of 1. This will just show the number of rows. Oops, the number of columns, sorry. Number of rows, that's right. Alternatively, number of rows, I can run n row command, right? I can run n row, and it will also return the number of rows. Number of columns is n col or length, or I can take the second dimension, or what is this? This takes a list of column names, and I can take the length, right? Now, we looked at the structure. str command returns the structure. Now let's look at the properties, the characteristics of the data. For example, what's the minimum, maximum, etc. I'm going to run the summary command to see what's happening. Okay, the summary command returns the columns. For each column, if it's a numeric, it's going to show the minimum, maximum, see this first quartile, last quartile, etc. Right? The 5-number summary. Okay. What is this NA? Well, it means that there is one record in the data set that's missing a value for last evaluation. There is one record missing a value. There is one record that's missing a value for average numbers, right? That's what it means. Then if you look at this, see this salary, there are 3 values, and it's going to show how many records have each value. Okay? High, low, medium. Department. There are more than 6 departments. What it's doing in here, it's going to show the top 6. It's going to show 6 departments with the most number of people. Then everything else will be grouped into category called other. It will be grouped into category called other. Suppose that I want to see more than 6. For example, here I can say max sum equals 9. What is this going to do? It's going to show the top 9, right? So you can do that. All right? So this is just for the satisfaction column. We want to see more levels, right? Because before it was show just top 6 and group everything else into category called others, right? Sometimes you want to see more than 6, you specify. All right? Now, suppose that my data set is super long. I want to know only one column. How do you do that? You put the data set name, you put a $sign. $sign will be what followed by the column name, right? So this is a column name. You're going to run the summary, and it's going to show just the summary for that specific column. What you can also do is, another way to do is to run, there is an lapply command. The command is going to run on all columns in the data frame, right, in the HR, and I want to show the summary for all columns. That's another way to show. And notice in here, it shows all departments, right? It does not limit you to 6, right? It shows all. It does not group into category other, right? So that's one of the differences. Another difference is how it looks like, okay? It's another difference. It's not vertical, it's more horizontal, right? Now, suppose that I want to see only the minimum. No problem, I just run min command. Then I can see the minimum and maximum. I run the range. This 5-number summary does not show the standard deviation. What I can do is I can run SD command. SD command is going to give me what the standard deviation, right? My department is a factor. How can I see the unique values of departments? I can run unique command, or I can run level command, right? Here, I just want to see the maximum satisfaction, the highest satisfaction level per department. So that's just doing the aggregation, right? Well, in this case, is 1, right? So now, remember, HR is a data frame, it's big. What happens if I want to display only the subset? In brackets, I specify which rows I want to show, and I specify which columns I want to show. So that's a rows range, comma, columns range. In this case, in the first example, the columns are omitted. So what is it gonna do here? It's gonna show 5 rows and all columns. I'm gonna run it. It's gonna show me 5 rows and all columns, right? But remember, I did not assign anything, right? I did not assign, so I did not create anything in here. Now, suppose that I want to create something called new HR, and I'm going to assign the first 5 rows and all columns. That will add new HR in there, right? It's gonna add the new HR. Because what did I do? I assigned, so it's supposed to be adding. See? Now, suppose that I want to take the first 5 rows and the first 3 columns. How do I do it? 1 through 5 and column index, columns in positions 1 through 3. Okay? Now, here, that's another way to do it, right? Names returns the list of columns. And here I'm just taking 1 through 6. That's another way. Here, suppose that I want to show only column in position 1, 4, and 5. Just making it up. You can use combine command to list the column positions that you want to show. For example, I use combine command here and I specify columns 1, 4, and 5, right? Just run. Or I can also specify explicit column names, right? And in this example, I'm omitting the number of rows. So what is it going to do? It's going to return all rows. Well, the output is long, but see this, what is this? Where does it come from? Don't I have the settings where I specify if the output is too long, cut at certain number of characters, right? That's what it's doing in here. Now, here, this is one column, right? HR has a salary column. Suppose that I want to show the salary just in the first 5 rows. This is what I do it, right? Very easy, right? Then suppose that I want to show the rows that match a certain condition. The condition is salary is medium. I just specified here, right? So here I specify which rows to return. And we want the rows to be returned where salary is medium. Columns are omitted. It means I want all columns, right? Then I can specify multiple conditions. I want to say my department is HR and salary is medium, right? I can do and I can do or, right? Multiple conditions, right? Then what next topic is you can add a column to the data. For example, suppose that, well, you have the column here called, you have a column here, time spent in the company, right? It's number of years. Suppose that I want to, for my analysis, I want to analyze the number of months spent in the company. So months spent in the company is going to be equal what? Time spent in the company times 12. This is what I'm doing here. I'm accessing the value, right? See this, the dollar sign, column name, times 12. Here, what it is doing in here, it's HR is the name of the data frame. This is going to be the new column name. And I'm assigning this, see? So now what I'm doing is, and because you need to verify that the column was added as expected, there are multiple ways. I just run head command, and I can see that I have in here month spent, right? So this is a year spent, and this is a month spent. It's just an example. Same thing, I can delete the columns that I no longer need, and to delete, I just set it to null, okay? I just set it to null. Now I'm going to run the head command again to make sure that it was deleted, okay? Another thing is the sorting. Sometimes you want to show top 10 records, or sometimes you want to identify the duplicates in your data, right? So what you can do is you can sort the data. So for example, HR sorted, and I can sort it by satisfaction level, right? So in here, I specify conditions for the row, sort by satisfaction level, and I'm including all columns. So that's going to do what? Create HR, and it's going to show the sorted, right? And I can always preview and to see the sorted, right? That's how you do it. right? So you have this, you select the column, right? And you check, you can validate, right? You just run it. Then if you run like this, if you put the minus sign, it's just gonna sort in descending order. So you've got a minus sign sorting in descending order. Then you can specify two columns name, right? So this is gonna be sorting by two columns in ascending order because I don't have the minus sign, right? And you can just preview, okay? Now, I told you that there are different types of columns, right? So there is a, but the problem is here. You have a column called whether the person left in the company or the person stays in the company. The value is 0 and 1, right? Remember, when we are running analysis, right, we're having a problem. If I'm running a summary command right now, see what it's doing? Because the values are 0 and 1, it's treating the column as an integer. But you cannot have an employee have stayed, have left, right? You cannot have part of the person stayed, part of the person left. An employee is either left or stayed, right? I want to see how many left. I want to see how many stayed. There's no, it doesn't make sense to do the first quartile, last quartile, right? So it's you either left, you or stayed. You can't be both, right? So sometimes for analysis, what you need to do is you need to convert this to a factor. So what I'm doing here, right, this is an assignment. I'm assigning it to the same column, and I'm taking it, I'm converting it to the factor. Next, when I do the summary, I'm going to get what I need. See? I see how many people left, how many people stayed. And is factor is going to check what if the column is a factor. If it's a factor, right, I can also look up the summary. I can look up the frequency table. Like for example, we know that salary command, salary column is a factor. The values are low, high, medium. I can run the table command to display how many I have for each value, how many rows have each value. Table, see? Just gonna show high, low, medium, right? Then this one is gonna show the proportion, right? This is gonna show the proportion of high, low, and medium. Then I can do the frequencies for two columns. I have a salary and I have what, left or stayed. So I want to know for each salary level, I want to know how many people left and how many people stayed. Okay? So I can do it like this, right? So that's a table. And eventually we can take this first table. This table can be used as input for visualizations. You're gonna look at it later. But earlier today, I touched the topic, missing values, right? So sometimes the data has missing values. The values are just not there, omitted. What's gonna happen? Remember, last evaluation column has a missing value. Now I'm gonna see a problem. I'm gonna try to display the mean value of the last evaluation. What is the average number of years since last evaluation? Let's see what's gonna happen. I'm gonna run it. Ouch, why didn't it calculate it? It's an A, okay? Because at least one of the rows is missing a value. So how do we do this? We use this parameter here and say an ARM equals true. So the command will ignore the missing values and will work as expected, right? Right? So, but how do we know if we have missing values? There are many ways. You can look at the summary, right? It will show if there are missing values. But this one here, it will check if the data set has any missing values in any columns, right? So that's what it's gonna do. I'm gonna run this, and it's gonna return true if at least one value somewhere is missing. This one is going to return how many values are missing in the whole data set. So we have two, right? This one, it's going to go through the list of columns, right? Oh, well, this is the last evaluation column. And we're going to look at, it's going to show how many instances, how many rows are missing the value for last evaluation, right? So this is what it's going to do. Let's see. We know last evaluation is missing value. How many rows? One row for the specific column. And one row. Okay, here this is a little bit different. So here we're gonna show how many are missing. This one here, I want to know which row. I want to get the row number where the value is missing. So I know row number 875 is missing the value. So this one, it returns the row number, right, where the value is missing. Here, I'm going to display the whole row if at least one column is missing. So what I'm doing here, complete cases returns, which it's going to return the rows where there are no missing values, right? So here, this is a condition, but I have an exclamation point. So what does it mean? It's not, it's a negation, right? So I'm going to return the incomplete rows. Here, the columns are omitted. It means I want to return all of them. Now, let's go ahead and run it. So here, there are two rows here, right? I have two rows with missing values, but in different columns, right? Now, I can check how many instances are missing a value for each column. I'm just giving you a bunch of commands that you can reuse for in your assignments, right? Now, let's see, how are we handling missing values? There are multiple ways to handle missing values. You may decide to skip the rows with missing values, just omit them, okay? So this is a new HR, and a omit command is going to omit the missing rows, right? Or you can just take the complete cases. That will just take everything without rows with missing values. But the problem is you might end up losing valuable data, right? So sometimes you may want to set the missing values to the column average. How do you do it? Well, suppose that you have last evaluation, you want to set the column average. So what is this? Remember, how do we get the average? You need to run the min command, but you also have to specify an ARM equals true, because we want the calculation to ignore missing values, right? So what this is going to do, it's going to, see this, it's going to take, this is an assignment operator. It's going to pick the values that are missing, it's going to set them to the average, right? Well, let's see, I'm going to run this, right? Then here, there is another column that gives the value, average monthly hours. Alternatively, instead of setting it to the average, I can use the predefined value. Like, for example, suppose that the predefined value default, I'm going to make it 200. It just, you know, I can set it to the column average. I can set it to the predefined value, right? Or sometimes I can decide to remove the column altogether. If more than half rows, perhaps missing a value in a column, I can remove the column altogether, right? There we go. And see this? I can run the summary. Now, I can run the summary command. I have to verify that there are no more missing values. I can run the summary again. Now I'm going to run this to check. None of the column has missing values because I addressed it, right? I addressed it. So now we're good, right? Next topic, packages. As I mentioned, everything is grouped into packages, into libraries. So this URL in here, this is going to show you available packages on trend library, because not all packages that you're going to use are available. You will need to install some. The rules package is, of course, packages you're going to install, right? Here, this is just open the default browser, and it will show you the packages in the current library, okay? That's what's going to do. Now, here, search command returns the packages we currently have in memory. Those are the packages that are loaded in memory. Remember, I showed you, so if you look at it in the packages, in other words, the packages have a check mark next to them. See this? And in R, everything a vector. So here, this is the first element, this is the fifth element, this is the ninth element, right? So, and this one here, it's going to show the locations in the system where packages are saved. This is the packages system that comes pre-installed, and this is my local directory where it's saving my packages that I installed, user library, right? Today I ran this to install a rule package. This will install package or rule that you're going to use for discretization and next week for association rules method. This package also installs the generics because sometimes there are dependencies. A package, something in a package may call a function defined in another package. So when you install a rules, in the current version, it also installs these generics. Okay? Now, if I want to use my package, it's unavailable. What I need to do is I need to load it in memory. I'm going to run either library command or require command. But, okay, require is an alternative way to load package in memory. Just know that. Two methods, right? Now, suppose that I want to do some readings about my package. This is what you can do. You can run this library, and this will show the help page for the library. See, this will show that. Oops, not sure what's going on. Oh, because I don't have this package. Let's fix it. Let's change it to the rules. There we go. So now it's gonna show the documentation page. It's gonna show the documentation page. Oh, because this I highlighted A. I should have read the whole command. So this is showing me the documentation page for what was a rule package. Okay, it's gonna show me the documentation page. Here, when I run this, it's gonna show me the vignette I have to that package. It's gonna open the vignette in a browser. So our rules has a nice vignette with examples. I would recommend you to check if you're interested. It might help you. Okay. Then this command is gonna update. It's gonna update all the packages that you have installed, user libraries. I'm not gonna run it now, but you know. You loaded the package in memory. You have a bunch of packages loaded in memory. So detach command is gonna unload the package from memory, and remove is gonna delete the package completely. Okay, just know it. All right. Our next topic is data visualization. There are different data visualization types. The histogram. The histogram is just going to show the frequency bin. It's going to show the frequencies, right? So I can just run the histogram command, HIST, right? And it's going to show the binning. Here it is for average monthly hours. This is the default title. Those are the labels for the axes. So this is what the y-axis, right x-axis, and it's just gonna show the frequency now. See this? I did not specify anything, but then I can specify the approximate number of bins that I want to have. That's just an option, right? I can specify the color of the border, right? I can specify this one here, the color of the graph, the color of the plot, right? I can change that. Or here I can specify multiple parameters. So I'm going to run this. Let's see what happens. Oops, it's because I need to just put a cursor or highlight the whole line. So now, what I see in here is that I'm using the color blue, right? I decided to do the shading, the density 20, and I want to go under 45-degree angle. I want to have approximately 5 ranges, and I rename the x-axis as average hours, right? In your quiz, I believe one of the questions is, how would you set the title of the plot, right? So, hint, you're gonna open your RStudio and you're gonna run the help command for what was a histogram, right? You're gonna run the help command for the histogram, right? And that will open the page, the help page. Then you're gonna look at the option. There is an option for the title here, see? Okay, so that's how you would answer. One of the quiz questions calls for it. If you get that question, only if you get that question, you may or may not get it, okay? Now, this is just playing around with commands, right? Remember, earlier I told you that you can use frequency table as an input for visualization. So what I'm doing here, this is the HR salary. This is produce the history, the frequency table, and I want to store it into the salary table, right? So this is my salary table. Now what I want to do, I want to do the bar plot. That's it, right? I can do that, or I can also nest this, right? I can put this command here inside the bar plot command. I can do that too, right? Okay, now what I can do is I can specify the order, right? These bars are not ordered. I can order those bars by this, right? High, medium, low, right? Now I can do the horizontal, right? Now what else I can do? This is just the horizontal and order. This is both horizontal, horizontal and order. It should do that. Run. Okay, well, now this is a pie chart. Pie chart also takes table command as an input. But one thing to remember is that when you have multiple values, pie charts are going to be hard to read. It's clouded if you have multiple values. If you have only 3 values, excellent. Pie chart shows relative frequency. So I'm going to just run this, and this is a pie chart, right? So if I want to, I can play around with pie chart command, such as changing colors, etc. Right? Here, box plots are for numeric columns, right? Number of hours per month, so box plots are for numeric columns. The plots that we use are based on the column data type, okay? So box plots are for numeric. Here is just the frequency table. Now, this is a default plot command. What is it going to do? Well, suppose that I want to do the bar plot. This is for the single column. It's a categorical column salary. What is it going to do? Plot is just going to do the bar plot, right? Because it's a categorical. Now I can specify the bar plot type line, type L. What is it going to do? Instead of seeing this bar, it's just on the line. See? Now what I can do, I can plot the categorical columns, HR salary versus department, right? That's pairwise plot. And then I can just plot average to single column. It's not going to look nice, but I'm just showing you, you can plot also 2 columns. It's not going to look nice, but I'm just showing you what you can do, right? So now I'm going to go back to slides to make sure, because I like to go over the code, and then I just go over things here. So I talked about this environment. I talked about the environment. Another thing about the environment is this. You have 2 options here. This is a list view. You can also see the grid view. Grid view is very helpful because sometimes you're running out of memory. Grid view is going to show you the memory. You can also remove one at a time, right? You click here and you can remove, right? So that's just convenient. But again, I'm suggesting you do stuff programmatically. Well, suppose that I made a mistake. I'm playing around here and I deleted the column by accident. There is no undo. What I can do is I can go back to the top of my code. I'm going to rerun the code to hit the file again to redo what I did again. See, so that's one advantage. It's reproducible, right? I don't need to try to figure out what I did. I can just easily redo it by running the code. Okay. Next thing here, so it's an environmental view option. We talked about factors, right? It talked about help files. Excellent help system. You know, Commands history, there is a history, which is nice too. We talked about the working directory, right? You can also change it to the global option, right? But I usually like to run the code, okay? Now, and R is an open source because people, actually developers, write their own packages, right? So that's about reading and previewing data from CSV. We talked about that. We talked about the data frame structure. We talked about the properties. I'm going to give you this file. It's just for you, right? Those are the notes for you. We talked about the subset, right? We talked about accessing a set of columns. We talked about descriptive statistics. All of that we talked about. We talked about why you're doing the sort, right? Sometimes you want to list something highest to lowest. Sometimes sorting can help me find the duplicates, right? We talked about the factor variables and the frequency columns. We talked about missing values, right? Remember, an ARM equals true. Remember that. So it tells explicitly to ignore the missing values. Okay? Then in the recommends we talked about the data has missing values. You can replace the missing values with predefined value. You can replace the missing value with column average. Okay? We talked about packages, right? So the library command is going to load the package in memory, and so does the requirement. Okay? Or you may also click on a checkbox, but again, this is not programmatic. You want it in a code, because if I'm running your code, I should be able to produce what you have. Those are additional commands. You want to, library is going to return user installed packages. Search is going to return the packages in memory. The package, even if it's installed, it's not available until you load it in memory. Okay? That's just to see the help. You can update all packages, which you should do regularly. That's just to show the net, to detach, we talked about, right? That's just different data visualization. I spelled it out when you use each. So histograms you can use to show the frequency, right? Well, it's going to work really well when the data set is large. But remember, the histogram, it does not show the actual values, right? And it may not work well for comparison. So, pie charts are relative frequency distribution, but well, you may show the percentages, there are options, but the thing is, if you have multiple values, it's going to get cluttered and hard to read, right? You're going to have access, yes. What I will do, I'm going to send the professor the recording. I'm going to send the slides. It's all yours here. The data, you're going to have the R code. Everything you're going to have. I'm going to give everything. Professor, okay? And professor will post it in the classroom. I don't have access to post. So the professor will post, all right? So this is just for you, the pros and cons. So pie charts could become unreadable. Just know that, right? This is just different bar plots, right? You used to show the frequency of categorical columns, which works really well. Sometimes it's easier to read than pie charts, sometimes, right? They also work well for data set comparison. And they can take the frequency table as an input. And this is just the generic plotting, right? It's not visually appealing, but To exit RStudio, you can run Q command, which stands for quit, right? There are two hidden files in there. R history, it's a command history. It gets stored in a file in your working folder, working directory. There are two files, R history, and this is a workspace. So sometimes if you save the workspace, when you restart the RStudio, it will recover what was in memory, right? Workspace is a collection of objects that gets loaded during the R session. See? When you start your R session, it's going to load the workspace object that are saved in the R data file. Right? So there is a file. Well, Those are just some courses. If you're interested later on, if you have time, you can watch at your leisure. There are a couple groups on LinkedIn that I'm a member of. Sometimes there are interesting articles in there. Well, this is just some additional. I have to put some references, right? I'm not making things up, so I just have to put something in here, okay? So, but you got 2 exercises. You need to do them, and then you have a quiz. You have 3 attempts. Few things to remember. Some questions have more than one answer. If there are more than one answer, if it's a multi-select question, the question stem is going to tell you to choose 2 answers. The question stem is going to tell you to choose 3 answers. If it does not say how many answers to choose, if it just says choose the best answer, then just one. But if it says to select 2 answers and you're selecting just one, it means that you're not following instructions, you're not going to get credit for the answer. You must select 2 correct answers to get the credit for the question. Another thing is that the questions are pulled randomly from the pool. So there is a pool of questions, and when you retake the quiz, you may get some questions will be different. Answer choices can be in different order. It's random. So you cannot say, hey, dear classmates, the answer to question 1 is A. No, because your question 1 is different from his her question 1. The answer choices order is also random. So that way, there is no way to cheat. Yes, you're gonna get, okay, so what I'm gonna do is, I don't know your email, that's the thing, Rebecca. I don't know your email. I'm gonna give it to Professor tonight, okay? That's what I'm gonna do, because, well, first of all, this is our recording, okay? An hour recording. So, what's gonna happen is, after this recording is being processed, I'm gonna send it to the professor as soon as I can. I'm gonna do it as quickly as I can, okay? You're gonna have this code, right? I wrote it for you and I put nice comments for you, right? You're gonna have everything. It's customer service, right? So let's see, any other questions? I would like to see questions. And some of you may remember me from data 610, okay? You might remember me from data 610. So I do multiple things. So. Okay? So you're going to get everything. No worries. You're going to like the course. And another thing is that you're going to use just R and Studio in this class. That's it. It should be relatively easy, right? So can you run the block of commands? Oh, yes. Absolutely. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Let's see. Let's go to R. Right? So I'm going to run the block of commands now. I'm going to go here and let's see, let's go back. Let's see, I'm going to do this select. Let's see. Run. There we go. I ran the selected command. Or there should be a way to run all. This is rerun previous code. Oh, source, under the source, there should be a way. Well, there should be a way to run all, I believe. You can select all and run all, or you can run just one. This is just run the current command. Control Enter, well, you can select all, but I believe there should be a way, okay? There should be. Can you show how, okay? Okay, sure. Well, yeah, I put a cursor just to run it. I just put cursor and I hit run to run one command. You can just cursor or hit run. You can highlight the command, whatever works for you. But whatever works for you might not work for someone else. Whatever works for someone else might not work for you. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So got some. Yeah, you can select code. Yeah, that's what I said. So you got multiple ways to do the same task, right? But what works for me might not work for you, and other way around, right? Okay. And let's see, any other questions? Well, no, you don't have to add this. No, you don't have to add. But see, this is a command, a less command, right? This is just a less command. This is a command. It depends on the command. See, it depends on the command. Because see, if I run, just if I do the help command for ls, right? So let's see. If I go in here and I put ls, this is, oops, in here. I'm gonna type ls here. This is a help command. Remember, ls command is calling a function and it has what? Some parameters, right? It's calling a function. So that's why I have to put in a parenthesis, and I could specify any arguments. So what I'm doing is I'm running is default, right? I'm running this calling the function. So we have to put this. Okay, this is a function. That's why I put this. Okay, this is a function. On the other hand, if I type this for the version, right? If I type it for the version, oh, see, that's nice. I can just use this version. I don't see. Well, you can put this, or you can omit, for instance. You can omit. I'm wondering what happens if I do ls is omitted. Oh, look at this. Also, if I use the arrow keys, up and down arrow, it also goes through the history, right? So let's see. I can type ls. Let's see what happens. Oh, see this? No, it's not gonna work. You have to have ls command with this. You have to have this. Okay? Because if I just do it without it, it shows me the code. It shows me the code. Okay? So it depends on the command. I hope I answered the question. Did I? Did I answer the question? I hope I did. Oops. Any other questions? Please, please, please don't hesitate to ask. Okay? So for quiz 3 attempts, you know, this one is not hard. Next one is harder. Okay. You're most welcome, the guys. So questions, going once, going twice. If I have an opportunity, okay, then most welcome. What we're gonna do is this recording will be available, and you're gonna get your professor is gonna get the link. He's gonna get all the files, and they will be posted for you. All right. Okay. So I wish you guys good luck. Please enjoy the course. Talk to you later. All right. Okay. So I'm gonna end the recording. All right. Thank you.